Hey guys, so last week I put out a video asking you guys to ask me questions about my photography and how I edit, what are my settings, what do I do, blah blah blah. And nobody really asked me any questions. I was a little disappointed. But there was one person who did ask me a lot of questions and a lot of good questions, and that is Brian Deman 25. Good job, Brian. I appreciate your questions and I appreciate your likes on Instagram and your comments. Keep it up. I promise you, I see them. Make sure you guys swing by and follow Brian Deman 25. I'll put his link in the description or something. Anyways, Brian asked a lot of questions about my editing. How do I edit? What do I use? What's the process? So I want to show you guys right now the process of my editing. The program I use and just the small things I do to make my photos look the way they do. So let's go. Okay, so right now I am going to show you how I edit my photos. I use Adobe Lightroom 4 to start. I'm not saying that you guys have to have Adobe Lightroom or that you have to go out and buy the best software, because I recently just got Adobe. I've only had it for about a year or so, and yes, it's really helped, and yes, it's great, but I do not feel like you have to have it. But this is what I use, mostly because I'm serious about what I do, and I'm trying to make it my job. So let's open it up, and I will take you guys on an adventure of how I photograph my adventures. Yeah, I know that was cheesy and lame, but here we go. So, this is a good photo to start, maybe. I just took these on Tuesday, so it was actually a lot of fun out in the water. Okay, this is a good one. We'll start with this one. Water was really shallow. Crazy shore break. If I can get this photo to show up. Okay. Let's actually do this one. Sorry, my computer's running a little slow. I've been editing a lot of videos for my job on it. Okay. So, alright, I'm changing my mind again. Sorry. Okay. Let's just start out basic. So this photo, it's nice. When you first look at it, yeah, it's nice, but it obviously needs some work. First things that I do in editing is I'll come over to my save presets. This is already in Lightroom. I've made my own presets, but they're not very good. So I use Lightroom's presets and I use their color presets, and I will go down to direct positive, click it, and automatically direct positive will bring out a little bit more vibrance and mostly bring down the highlights and mess with the shadows a little bit. Now if we want to see what exactly it does, we can just go to our develop and check out our bars, and as you can see, it messed with the highlights a little bit and the shadows a little bit, but everything else it didn't really touch. So now I want to go in and do what I like to do, and one thing I do is I often straighten out my photos unless it's not going to look good. One thing I use is the angle tool. You just click on it, drag what you want to be straight. Sand in here, so there. Kind of like that, you know. Done. Boom, that's your crop photo. I like my photos actually to have a little bit more length to them, so I'll bring this up a little, bring this out a little bit, showing you. And I mean, it doesn't have to be perfectly straight, so if I want a little bit more in there, I have no problem doing that. Oh, I can't bring that up. So, I mean, you can just rotate until you get what you like. Blah, blah, blah. Okay, nice close-up picture, shore break, see a lot of sand, blah, blah, blah. What I want is a little bit of definition between the sand and the water. So first thing I'll do is I'll mess with the contrast a little bit, bring it up. And then the highlights are good. The shadows are alright. Let's mess with them. I like the shadows just because it shows the depth of the wave. It's not going to be, I'm not going to boost all those shadows up. The highlights, the first thing I noticed with the highlights is this highlight. This is actually the sun reflecting off the wave. It was probably like 9 in the morning, and so it was bouncing back. We can mess with, but I don't know. I don't really see a need for it. Much more of a need for it, I guess, just because I don't know. That's how the world made it, and that's how it's gonna be. Clarity, definitely. I always add clarity, especially on clear days like this. I usually don't ever boost it all the way up, just because it gives it kind of a monster, grainy look. And vibrance, obviously, you can look at this and see it doesn't need to be much, to have much color added to it, but I always do add just a little bit of color, which brings out, you know, the sand. It separates everything just a little bit more. And you know, that is pretty much how I would edit a photo. I don't really see much of a need for anything else. I mean, I'll put it in Photoshop and I'll edit out some of these bigger pieces of seaweed, but other than that, it's a good photo. All I do is come up here, export. I can put my watermark on it if I like. You know, if you don't like, you don't have to. I can show you guys how to make your own watermark in another video if that's what you want. And then you export it. Up here, it's exporting. A lot of you had some questions on how I edit photos like this, where it's shooting into the sun, you know, and all the colors kind of washed out. And so I'll show you how I do that real quick. Oftentimes I'll bring, well, first let's do what I usually do. Colors, direct positive. Okay, boom, automatically brings in some more of the colors. Another thing I don't like is when the horizon line is like this. So I will come in, go to my straightening tool, and we'll just straighten that out. And I really, really want this whole thing in here, so what I think I'm going to do, it doesn't have to be perfectly straight for me all the time, but, you know, mostly straight is good enough for me, and I do want to look a little more in there. Yeah, that's good. So, oh yeah, sorry if you guys can hear my fan, my computer fan going off. It's, I don't know. Anyways, so obviously we're going to be adding color to this, and obviously we're going to be adding contrast. So let's start off with the contrast. Now, if you notice, the contrast is going to boost your highlights and your whites. So you're going to have to then go check your highlights and probably bring them way down. Shooting into the sun, I always bring my highlights almost all the way down. My whites, excuse me, almost all the way down. Not a ton though, just because, I mean, it's beautiful. I mean, you look at these and it's glistening. And so then clarity, obviously we're going to bring it up so we can see a bunch of that beauty. And now vibrance. Now if you bring the vibrance up a ton, obviously it looks fake, and it looks, you'll get this purpleness coming through. That's from the sun and the glare of the sun on your lens. So I do not like to bring it up for mostly that reason. But one thing you can do to change this is go to your tint right here and just bring it down a little bit. So opposite of the purple. Oh, whoops. Opposite of the purple. See, that's too green, but you know, just a little bit. And then another thing I do is I bring the temp down a little bit. Not too much, just because then everything starts to change. And then from there you can still mess with the vibrance a little bit. You know, too vibrant, I feel like it makes it look fake and stuff like that. So another thing I want to work with is this. It's just a little too dark for me with how bright everything else is, so I'll come in and mess with the shadows a little bit. It'll do more to the wave than it will to the houses, but if I can't fix it, I can't fix it. Obviously I could come in and paint it in with my brush here. You know, bring the exposure up a little bit and just brush it up. But I mean, I obviously am not going to want it that light, so then we'll just come back and bring it down a little. But I mean, really, that's a finished product right there. Boom. Export with previous. Just remember, when you're exporting with previous, if you don't want your watermark on it, you have to go back into your export and finish that. So then we'll get out of here. And we will find this was the last one we just did, and this was the other one we just did. We'll bring them up so you guys can see them. Boom. I mean, there's my watermark here. Pretty much just how we saw it. And here's this there, just how we saw it. And now I will throw this one into, Photoshop real quick, just to show you real quick on what I do to finish it up, make it look nice. A lot of people don't feel like they need to edit out their seaweed. I don't know, when I first got started in wave photography, I always saw Hawaiian waves and there was never a drop of seaweed in them. So I love my waves to be clean. I hate my waves to have seaweed and gross stuff in them. I mean, most of the time I won't edit all of it out, but I will edit the big chunks out just so it doesn't look all gross. So what I do is I'll come over here to my spot healing brush tool. It's set just to spot healing brush tool, and I'll just quickly hit it, let Photoshop do its thing. Boom, beautiful. I'll probably bring, whoops, dropped my phone. I'll probably bring down my brush tool just a little bit and just go through and kind of paint over what I don't like. And that's pretty much it. I mean, I love Photoshop just because you can do whatever you want. Another thing that I sometimes do is edit out people on the beach. Mostly just because sometimes there's like, I don't know, some guy eating a corn dog on the shore, and you know, it's kind of distracting to the wave. And if you're out there to shoot waves, why not focus on the wave? I don't know. Your choice. Do what you want. That's how I do my waves. Then you just file, save as, and this will save over your Lightroom export. So if you don't want that, rename it as something and it'll copy this, just the new version, which I will do for you guys right now. I'm just going to put 4 at the end of it, so then we can pull up both and see the differences. Large file, quantity 12, you know, nothing special. And you click OK and you're done. Saves down here. Get out of it, and then you have both files. And if you don't want that, just don't rename it and it'll totally take out your old one. So let me bring this down just a little bit so we can put them side by side. Okay, so that's the new and this is the old. You know, and it's done, it's ready, it's okay, and that's how I edit all my photos. There's no big secrets, no fancy schmancy layers or anything like that. It's just simple editing. I hope I helped you guys out, and I hope that I inspired you to ask me some more questions. I really want to help you guys on all your work. So I will look forward to seeing your questions on my Instagram or here on my YouTube. Just ask them in the comments, and I will answer them next Friday. So make sure to stay tuned, and I'm just going to keep being weird. See you guys later.